Sarah Maddox is the co-founder of the Secular Student Alliance at St. Cloud State, served as its president for 3 years, and collaborated with Ben Blanchard on 2 speaking appearances at the annual, or appearances, because that's how English works, 2 speaking appearances at the annual SSA conference in Columbus, Ohio. Sarah studied wildlife management at St. Cloud State and is starting her career as a zookeeper. Please welcome Sarah Maddox.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. Lesson 1, it's awkward like a porcupine. my metaphor is a porcupine. It's really awkward and painful. Here we go. We got the first minute over. So you should go to Lanyard, which is the online conference service that we're using for SSA this year. And I have uploaded my files so you can look at them yourself. You'll see some of the things that I've included are links. So there's hyperlinks in the presentation that you can click on and it will open up a browser page, and yeah. So you should definitely check that out. Let me get this started. All right, secular grieving. I want you to understand and support the secular bereaved. You can find me on Twitter, Sarah Izu, or you can send me an email. I'll be here for probably about an hour afterwards, so just come and find me and we'll have awkward, sad discussions. My goals for today, I want to show you how grief is different for atheists and secular people. I want to demonstrate and share some online resources that the bereaved can use or that you can show to them. I want to discuss preemptive group support and recommend some practical ways of interacting. How it's different. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about people that don't believe in an afterlife. And that's permanent, not afterlife. So coping with permanence is difficult. The awkward porcupine walked in. Permanence is really difficult to deal with because you don't have very many people in your life that can, unless you know like a whole gaggle of atheists, you don't have a lot of people in your life that understand what permanence is. So being a bereaved person can result in erasure and overexposure. And what I'm talking about there is, for an atheist who is grieving, a lot of people will assume, and by say a lot, I mean everyone will assume that you believe in an afterlife. You are, as an atheist, grief makes your atheism invisible, and that's a bad thing. People will approach grieving atheists and say, he or she is up in heaven right now looking down on you, and it's awkward, and it's like, stop talking to me. And so erasure, you become invisible, or at least your atheism does, and that's difficult. Overexposure. Normally, I'm not going to go to church. I'm an atheist. But if someone in my family dies, I'm probably going to spend at least a day in a church to get ready for the service, to be at the service, you know, hang around afterwards. That can be overexposure for some people. That can be a really high dose of religiosity for the day. So that's one of the things that makes it different. Lack of community. When religious folk or non-atheists are grieving, they have not only a building to go to in the church, they can just kind of walk in and a priest is like, oh yeah, there's just someone here being religious. You typically don't have a building, and you typically don't have a group of people that expect you to have emotional discussions with them. And that's something I want to encourage. You should have lots of awkward, emotional, and social conversations in your groups, because it makes you guys stronger and gives you the community aspect. And increases in the following: isolation and loneliness. Like I said, oh, sorry, it's dying. Oh no. Come back. There we go. So there will be an increase in isolation and loneliness because you'll feel like the only atheist, because everyone will be saying they're up in heaven now, you know, God's taken so-and-so, or it was so-and-so's time, and it's like, well, yes, they died at a time. That's true. I do this. Yeah. The other big thing is vulnerability to proselytizing. As an atheist any old day, you're vulnerable to proselytizing if you're out because, you know, a religious person sees you as a challenge, right? Or sees you as someone that needs to be saved so badly they have to come talk to you. Have you guys seen Gran Torino? Okay, you know that annoying priest that like hangs around his house and like knocks on his door and says, your wife is dead, let's talk about it. And like, you should, I mean, he's trying to help him with his grief, but at the same time, the grumpy old man character is like, I don't want to go to church. And that happens. So just keep in mind that people who are atheists, who are grieving, have this upshot in people trying to proselytize to them while they're in a very awful place, and that's not cool. And tension with family. I had a lot of tension with mine, and it's pretty common. You already have tension with your family, likely because of your atheism, right? Having one of them pass away, you'll probably have more tension with them because it's going to come up. No, I don't think Grandma is looking down on me. I think Grandma can't look anymore. That's how that death works. Yeah. So just keep those things in mind. How it's different for atheists. I mean, in most cases, we're pretty much the same as everybody else, right? Religious or non. But in this one case, belief in an afterlife makes grief drastically different. Online resources. You could just use Google, but I want to show you preemptively a couple places to look. Grief Beyond Belief is so great. It is a secular comfort and compassion for anyone grieving without belief in deities, prayer, or life after death. This is their Facebook page. It's awesome. You should like it. They have a Facebook page that does public posts, and these are links here. So when you look at my slides on your computer later, you can click on them. There's a Facebook group for private discussions, and it's closed, so you can, you know, let your anger out and let the awkward porcupine wander around. They have an upcoming website. They started a year or two ago and are just on Facebook right now, but they're very active, and their website will hopefully have a directory of grief counselors and funeral officiants sorted geographically, a link library of all things related to grief as a secular person. So definitely check out Grief Beyond Belief. And I have a quote here from the founder, Rebecca Hensler. It wasn't until after I founded Grief Beyond Belief that I discovered quite how intense and widespread the need for it is. And it isn't just that non-believers need compassion, empathy, and kindness without offers of prayer and promises of reunification. It is that people of reason rather than faith grieve differently. The ideas we find comforting are those that do not require us to suspend disbelief. So she went ahead and founded Grief Beyond Belief, and we can all benefit. Secular Therapy Project is awesome, and the founder and director, do you recognize him? He's here this weekend. I don't know if he's left already. Okay. So go and find him, Dr. Darrell Ray. It's a project from Recovering from Religion, and therapists apply to be in the sort of bank of secular therapists. They're reviewed for their credentials and experience by a review board, and then they're approved, and then you can get confidential immediate results. I got an email within a day of someone in St. Paul that is, you know, a secular therapist who can talk to me about grief and loss. So that's awesome. This is how you do it. It is super simple. You just click on Find a Therapist. Put, you know, an email or a username and a password in, where you are, and then you get one box. Just say, what do you want? Do you want someone who can talk about grief and loss? Do you want someone who can talk about bipolar disorder? Do you want this is, secular therapy does have the option to go into grief and loss, but it has pretty much anything available in terms of mental health services. So definitely look at it. It takes like 1 minute and can really make a difference. There's some blogs and links that I think you should check out. There's a blog called Grief Sucks, and it's sort of a daily, I think, what do they call it, bereavement for the rest of us. It's sort of like a daily, day-to-day dealing with grief thing, and it's kind of got a little bit of humor mixed in there. The Grieving Atheist is also pretty good. The most recent post I have linked down at the bottom there. And articles. One of the things before I was dealing with grief recently, before that though, I heard Greta Christina talk about grief a lot. She talks about it and blogs about it very eloquently and has lots of good stuff to say that I think you should check out. So in 2005, she wrote Comforting Thoughts About Death That Have Nothing to Do with God. Sorry, if I do a hyperlink, it kind of spaces itself out. Atheism, Death, and the Difference Between Pessimism and Realism. So these are things that I think you should read, even if you're not grieving, because someone at some point is going to die. How your group can help. Be preemptive. Don't wait for somebody to die. Do this before someone is grieving. Just go ahead, think about, okay, we're human beings die, so we should probably include this in the list of things that we talk about. So create a social community. If your group is only intellectual discussions, someone who's grieving and having, an awkward time, terrible time, they're not going to want to talk to just a discussion group about it. They're going to want someone who can help them load up their car, or just do practical stuff, or just listen. It's kind of weird to talk someone's ear off, but that's what I'm doing right now. So. Address death and grief in meeting discussions and topics. So bring it up. Have, you guys pick a discussion for each meeting, right? That's typically what most groups do. One day, pick grief and death and, joke about it. Try and, make it a little morbid and, with good taste. I would strongly recommend not joking about things like suicide, because, yeah, you have free speech, but it's just a terrible thing to do. Don't do that. Offer a place to go if you can. If you have a corner of the union that you like to hang out in, you don't have to explicitly offer it, but passively offer it. Think about the fact that people want to come to you not just for, talking about how awesome Matt Dillahunty is, because he is super awesome. But he can't usually be at your meetings. So, yeah, your group can help. How you can help, by respecting their privacy. Sometimes they don't want to share with other people that they're grieving. You should probably ask. If someone says, my uncle just died or whatever, say, is that okay for me to share with other people? Have you told many people yet? If you do have permission, it can be good to share with other people, because then they're sort of alerted to the fact. I had a close friend of mine, her cat of 15 years passed away, and she was pretty racked with grief, and she'd posted about it on her Facebook, but I posted about it in our group, which is private and closed, and I said, Meg's going through a hard time. She's grieving the loss of her animal companion, and she needs someone to talk to. So she was like, oh, that's so wonderful. So many people messaged me from our group that are secular, because I was getting so many religious messages. Her inbox was flooded with religious messages, as was mine, and it's unfortunate. Sending links, be sure to send links with commentary and with compassion. Don't just send a link, and preferably not on their wall. I would send it in a message, and if you do post it on their wall, be respectful about it. Say, I'm sorry to hear that this happened. I was thinking about you, and I was thinking that this particular article might help you. So don't just throw links at them, okay? Be good about it. Offer to attend a memorial. It's really great when there's at least 2 atheists in the room. I felt like the only one in the room at my mom's memorial, and I wasn't, but it still felt that way. Being in a church, you feel kind of lonely. Offer to drive. These are very practical things. you'll notice. Driving, arrangements, moving, food, all these things, because you can't do anything about the fact that they're sad and they're grieving, other than listen. You can't emotionally, like, finagle the grief out of their life. You have to just pick up the pieces, what needs to be done, because especially right after someone has had a loss, there's a lot of stuff to do. So driving is especially good because I know I was distracted and, you know, like a song would come on and it would remind me of her and I wasn't thinking about what's on the road. That's a good thing to do. Making arrangements, I think, is a great thing that you can help out with if you know anything about it, if you've helped make arrangements before. Most of my family wasn't in town when arrangements needed to be made, so I went to the funeral home with another family member who I'm not close to, but it helped. The person that went with me didn't really participate in making the arrangements, but they sat there and were just sort of like moral support. I'm just going to sit here during the presentation that dies. And food. You can bring them food, because people have a hard time feeding themselves correctly or at all when they're bereaved. And for discussions, for talking to people who are grieving, keep in mind that first slide at the very beginning, how grief is different. They're vulnerable to so much religiosity in their life. It's unwelcome, and people think that just because it's a sad time that they can do stuff that they normally wouldn't. I have people in my life that knew I was an atheist and that, you know, respected that atheist boundary. And then once Mom died, it was like, I'm going to overstep that boundary now. We're going to talk about heaven, as though this is an okay time to throw away boundaries. So keep that in mind. Also find your comfort level. Hopefully you were all comfortable coming to a grief talk and watching someone awkwardly cry in front of you. But if you're not at any point, don't exceed your own comfort level, because you're not doing that person any good. Because you can, at different times, it can be obvious that your comfort level has been breached, and you're not doing any good if you're awkward as well. Anger, outbursts, crying, all these things are strange and awkward behaviors, and it's really difficult to tell, even if you know someone well, how they will react the day that someone dies. So you just got to keep in mind that something strange is actually kind of normal. And then a little, a few examples here. I'm sorry to hear about so-and-so. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want some company? There was one night I can't remember what I was doing. It was about a week after it happened, and I stayed over at a friend's house, and I went to sleep, and she watched me sleep all night. It sounds kind of creepy, but it was actually nice. She was like, I just wanted to make sure nothing else horrible happened. So having some company, even if it's not, you don't have to talk about the person that just died. You don't have to talk about arrangements. Sometimes just having someone around, like physically in the room, can help. What can I do right now? And the right now part is important, because there are lots of people. I would say at my mother's memorial, there were probably about 50 people just during the service that said, if you need anything, let me know. And it comes from a great place, but I know that out of those 50 people, there were probably only 3 that actually had any concrete help to offer me. So I would have appreciated having less people say that, so that I could, more easily pick out the people that I could go to. So saying, what can I do right now? And sort of offering yourself, saying, I'm here, let's get this done. So to wrap it up, you need to show respect. You need to accept the fact that there's an awkward porcupine in your life now. You need to also accept that they might toy with the idea of an afterlife. I never, until my mother passed away, I never thought, I hope there's a heaven. I never thought, I hope there's a big family reunion in the sky. But now I wish there was. And that's kind of a, 180 from the particular type of atheism that I used to espouse. So accept that they're going to change, and that they're going to be awkward. They might even treat you poorly. And if that's the case, you don't have to put up with it. But you can know that it's coming. And offer comfort, because they're not getting the comfort of the family reunion in the sky kind of thing. They're not getting the comfort of prayers and talking to a priest. They're not getting a lot of stuff. So offer comfort in whatever way you know how. My older brother brought me sour gummy worms and like a 12-pack of Red Bull. It's like, yes, this is what I need this week. And it helped. It's not, he didn't do anything more specific than that, but respect, acceptance, and comfort are the things that you need to offer. So I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I can answer some questions and say thank you to Brendan. Brendan was there when my mom died. We were driving, and I got the news over the phone, and he was like almost driving off the road. It was kind of funny. He was like, "Oh, it's okay," and I'm like, "Don't drive us off the road."
One man called your name, my other, and tried to find myself.
Yeah, it was a bummer. It was a bad night. But anyway, I am ready for questions if there is time. Is there time?
Yes, you have that. 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yes. Having lost my grandmother and had here myself, is there anything you can say to family members who are religious to respectfully remind them that we may be grieving, but we also don't believe what they believe in a non-angry way?
In a non-angry way. Use a soft voice. There's really no way to convey that message that to most religious people doesn't sound angry. You can say, Nana, I want you to know that I want to help you through this grieving process, and I want you to help me. You can help me by remembering that I'm not using the afterlife to deal with someone's loss. So, I don't know, just use a soft voice, kind of go about it matter-of-factly. That's all you can do. But I would recommend talking about it with your group or with your family, even if someone hasn't died, because having had that one conversation before someone dies, you can kind of draw from that later on after it's happened, and I think that's important.
I have had experience at a particular job where I couldn't come out because I worked privately as a tutor. I was going through a really difficult time because a close friend had just died of brain cancer. And it wasn't a place where I felt safe telling people that the things you have to say are not helping me, telling me maybe you should just go to your on-campus chapel and really think about life is really not what I need to hear.
Yeah.
And I felt kind of trapped. I felt like I don't feel safe like telling this person.
Right.
Do you have any suggestions for how to deal with that?
My advice, the summer that my mother passed away, I was planning to move home for the summer with her, but we had to pack up her house and put it on the market. So I went to stay at my place of employment, where there were vast majority, if not complete, uniform religious culture. The job wasn't explicitly religious, but what I did was I told one person, and that was the person who hired me. So the reason why I'm looking for this job right now is because I have nowhere to go. So I didn't tell anyone else, and sometimes it actually was somewhat helpful because when I was at work, it was like it didn't happen because nobody knew about it. It's difficult if you need to take time off of work, but I would say someone else had a death in the family, or you need to be there. I would just recommend not telling someone at all if it's possible. If you know that they're gonna do that and they're gonna do that repeatedly, that's how I would go about it. But each case is different, so. Is that good? We good? Okay. Thank you.